synchronization topics, and within that we were looking at reductions. So we saw one basic form of reduction in the last class. Let's understand it a little more and also see variations of it. Right? So we said that we want we have some set of input. In this case, let's say numbers. Need not always be numbers. You can do reductions also on other data types. But let's say that we are starting with reductions and we want to sum them up. And we said that there is one property which is associativity, which is required for reductions to happen. Otherwise, if it is like you are computing the sum, you can always use atomic add and go ahead with the processing. But atomic add is going to add sequentiality or atomic min, max, etc. So we would like to have some parallelism out of it. So out of different types of computations that you can manage using, let's say, atomics or logs and so on, a subset of them are going to satisfy this associativity property. So for this set of operations, can we do something more to improve parallelism? And one of the options was, since we have a large set of threads on the GPU, can we make use of this to improve parallelism like this, where individual threads compute the individual, let's say, operate on a few of the data items and then compute intermediate values, and then we go on repeating this procedure until we find the final reduced value. To write the code corresponding to such a processing, which we called as reduction, is that we start with an offset which goes from n by 2 to 1, and every time only those many threads operate on the input values. So initially n by 2 threads operate, then n by 4 and so on. So there are log n such steps required, which need to be separated by barriers, right? Because we have otherwise data arrays across the two. And so if thread ID is less than of, which means that the number of threads operating on different set of values also goes on reducing, n by 2, then n by 4 and so on. So the more and more threads, first n by 2, then 3n by 4 and so on, those number of threads are going to sit idle. And then what we are doing here is that every thread is writing to itself, that is its location, a of threadIdx.x, using the offset value that I am using. So the offset is being used for both identifying the thread ID as well as computing which value I should be using. So definitely the code that we saw was not exactly what we represented using this visual processing, right? So in the visual processing, we were looking at a of I and a of I plus 1, right? That is a of threadIdx.x and a of threadIdx.x plus 1, right? So we implemented it slightly differently, right? So what that slightly differently was actually this. So we looked at 4 plus 5, right? 4 and 5, that is a of 0 and a of n by 2, and then a of 1 and a of 1 plus n by 2 and so on, and then wrote that sum at a of thread ID, right? So therefore 3 plus 7, 9 plus 3 and 3 plus 2. So that is how we wrote. And then in the next step, we summed up these two values and these two values because of the of being n by 4 and so on. So that is how we proceeded. And if you increase the number of values, you'll be able to see that a similar processing is happening. So we did not really compute exactly the way I had shown on the previous slide, but we did compute exactly the same sum, but in a slightly different way. What we would like to do is to see if there are other ways in which this can be done. So definitely we saw one way. Now this seems to be the second way. So we saw visually one way. The implementation was another way. Are there some other ways in which this can be done? Well, you can still do that. For example, so one point which we had discussed last time was that n must be a power of 2 to make this work across all situations. That is, it just gets computed without any issues. Otherwise, there are multiple ways in which this can be done when n is not power of 2. One way is that you pad the input such that it becomes a power of 2, the next power of 2, with, let's say, the identity element. For sum it is going to be 0, for multiplication it is going to be 1, and so on. Alternatively, we'll have to modify the computation where that if condition needs to also check if I am accessing something which is within the bounds. Right? So that is another way in which that can be done. So that will take care of non-powers of 2, including odd numbers, etc. So another way in which this reduction can be done is that I can do something like this, where I talk about take 4, and then I take the last element, first and last element, then second element and second last element, and so on. This is another way in which the reduction can be done. Our original calculation was like this. This part remains the same, that is this part, except that now the way I am going to access the second element, that only is going to change, right? So thread 0 is going to access a of 0, thread 1 is going to access a of 1, and so on. So this part remains the same. The other elements is going, the function to access the other elements is going to differ, which is going to be 2 into whatever is the offset minus threadIdx, and we will have to add -1 to make sure that it is within bounds because of zero-based processing. Right? So as you can see, there are at least 3 ways which we saw, and we saw implementation of 2 of them, which allows us to write reductions. And all of this is going to work out, right? But there is something more that we did in this case, which I would like you to understand. Right? So anybody sees anything anything wrong or anything different with respect to what we discussed theoretically and what we actually have implemented? Any vague thought?
Degree of coalescing is one, I guess.
Degree of coalescing will differ depending upon how you are processing these elements, and you would possibly want to have consecutive threads accessing consecutive elements to improve the degree of coalescing. That is one. Any other things, let's say related to reductions, we saw something theoretically, and we implemented something in the CUDA code, and both of these have some difference. There is something which we didn't say theoretically, but we are doing it. Can anybody see that?
We are assuming
Use commutativity.
Okay, why is that?
The operation we are considering is commutative, and in this case, it also gives us a better coalescing, the degree of coalescing.
Yeah, coalescing is good, but why did you say that we are not? I mean, where are we exploiting the commutativity?
In the ones that we discussed in practice, we are adding the first with the next, like not with the next one directly, but with some other element that's far away in the array. Right. So that requires commutativity.
That is correct. So this is an important point, that we are implementing reduction, and in our theoretical discussion, we just said that it should follow associativity property. It should not follow, I mean, we didn't say anything about commutativity. The way we have written codes, we are not only exploiting associativity, because that is how reduction is possible, but we are also exploiting commutativity. And that's the reason why different ways of coding reduction are actually going to be possible. For example, in this case, we said that we are going to sum up the first and the last value. That is not how associativity says. That is not what associativity says. This is possible because it is both associative and commutative. Similarly, 4 is summed up with 5, or threadIdx.x summed up with threadIdx.x plus n by 2. Right? This is possible because we are exploiting both associativity and commutativity. But reduction per se does not really require commutativity to hold. If commutativity also holds, we have these different variations. Can you give me an example, some function, some mathematical function, or some other, any function, which is associative but not commutative? So associative meaning, let me write it here in the chat box. A dot B dot C is same as A dot B followed by C, right? So this is what we are calling as associative. And commutative means that A dot B is same as B dot A. Can you give me a function, an example, which is not commutative but associative? For example, plus, minus, we said, are both commutative as well as associative. And that's the reason why these different codes are working.
Sir, is it exponentiation?
Okay, that's a good answer. So A power B power C is right associative, right? Which means that B power C should be done, and then A power that should be done, right? It is not going to give you the same answer if you do A power B first and whole to the power C, right? So you will get different answers. So exponentiation is a very important example which can be done with reduction, which can be implemented with reduction, but you cannot do this arbitrary processing the way we could do for the sum. Another example that Shagnik is suggesting is matrix multiplication, right? A dot B dot C is, you could do it in arbitrary order as long as you keep the ABC order fixed, but A dot B is not same as B dot A, right? The matrix multiplication is going to give you a different answer. That is another very important application, very important function, which is associative but not commutative, which means that you can perform matrix multiplication also using reduction, but you don't have these different variations in which you can perform the process. You will have to do in a particular order, or the number of orders is going to be limited. Merging strings, right? So this is what Rigved is suggesting. That is like string concatenation, right? So if you have A, B, C, D, E, F as 3 different strings, you cannot do AB concatenated with CD is same as CD concatenated with AB, right? That is not the case. So that is definitely going to be not commutative, but it is associative. You can do CD dot EF, CD concatenated with EF first, and then AB concatenate with CD EF. That is okay. All right, so that's very good. So I hope some of you who had little confusion about can there be examples of associative and not commutative, I hope these examples convey to you the exponentiation operation, matrix multiplication, and string concatenation. These are definitely 3 very good examples of this. But importantly, there are many other examples, right, which you can think about. It's just that in this, these are very simple looking plus often come across examples. Okay, good. So that's a good point. Now let's go back to our first diagram, right? So we said that there are, visually we saw 3 ways in which reduction can be implemented for sum, but we implemented 2 of them, right? The third one had some issue, right? And that's the reason why I was not able to come up with a good answer to that. So let's go back to this. This is what we wanted to implement, and it's going to be a little difficult because I cannot really write at 0.5 location. So I'll have to write at 0 or 1 and so on. So I can possibly implement it in this manner, right? So I'm going to now shift all of this to the left because the input is contiguous, right? So for the next step also, I want contiguous input. This can also be relaxed. You can write the code such that the numbers are not really going to be consecutive. That is okay. You can write reduction that way also. But for our purpose, for this discussion, I'm going to assume that for the next step also, I want the elements to be written in consecutive locations, so that then in the next step also those will be consecutive and so on. So if I have n by 2 threads, next time so in that step, I'm going to fill up n by 2 entries. In the next step, I'm going to fill up n by 4 entries and so on, right? Until I reach a single entry, which is going to be available at a of 0. This is what I want to implement, right? Not at the middle position, right? Which is probably going to be difficult. I want you to implement this particular code, right? So this is the visual part that I'm going to show, and I want you to implement this code. Please spend some time thinking about how you will write the code. You just need to modify the existing code. If you want, I can show you that, but yeah, maybe I'll. So once you understand that you have to implement this, that is all the elements should be on the left, I will just show you the previous code so that you'll be able to write it. Please write the code and paste it in the chat box. If you face any issue, just ask the question. Okay, any suggestions or any questions? Krishna Vamsi is asking, is it okay if I write the sum of element 0 and 1 in element 0 and 2 and 3 in location 2? Sure, go ahead, no problem. So any specific reason that you want to do it this way? Okay, sure, go ahead. Rigved has given some code. A of 2 into offset plus equal to A of 2 into offset plus 1. Sure. So this also is okay. Okay. This will I think there is some small issue with this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think I wrote something wrong.
Yeah.
In second step, it will start again from second index, but it will not be there. Yes, sir. I have to modify.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. That's fine. I think you are on the right track. Venkat is suggesting if 2 into thread ID plus 1 is less than equal to n, okay, that is 2 into ID is within the bounds, okay, then t equal to a of 2 ID plus a of 2 ID plus 1, then sync threads within the if condition, and then a of ID equal to t. Okay, that's also good. And we'll discuss Venkat's solution soon. I'll wait for a few more seconds in case somebody wants to push their code. Okay, so let's understand. Okay, let's take. We'll start with Rigved's code first, right? So this will replace that off. Instead of sync threads, I am assuming a global. You sure? Yeah. So for now, we are using sync threads. That is to say that things are in shared memory, etc. But yeah, if you have a global memory, then we require a global variable. That's all right. So going back to Rigved's code, I'm just going to replace that 2 into off by 2 into thread ID, right? So that 2 into a of 2 into thread ID plus equal to a of 2 into thread ID plus 1. Right? So that is what we are going to do, which means that thread 0 is going to look at 0 and 1, thread 1 is going to look at 2 and 3, and so on. Right? What this is going to ensure, and this is similar to what Krishna Vamsi was asking, is that you are going to write at a of 0, then a of 2, a of 4, a of 6, and so on, which means that in the next iteration, we need to worry about taking only those values. Right? So, so that is going to be, again, when thread 0 comes, it is going to look at 0 and 1, right? And a of 1 was not written. We wrote the values as a of 0 and a of 2, right? So therefore, that offset needs to be brought in. That is what I think Rigved was trying. But there needs to be a function of thread ID also in this case. So that is one way in which you will be able to compute the same values as a function of both thread ID as well as offset. So that I think we need to work out. But let's see why we are requiring that. Right? So why are we not pushing things together into the consecutive elements, right? And then we will come to Venkat's code, which will probably solve that issue. So let me go back to this part. Right? So we implemented this, and what happens in this case is, I'll tell you using this. So when so the way it is happening is that thread 0 is writing using these two memory locations, right? So 4 plus 3, and I'm writing to 7. What is thread 1 doing? It is taking a of 2, a of 3, and writing at a of 1. As soon as you do this, that means that thread 1 is writing to memory location a of 1. In contrast, thread 0 is reading at memory location a of 1 at the same time, right? Which means that original value of 3, which was there at a of 1, might get overwritten by thread 1 when it performs its processing, which indicates that you might, well, if you are lucky, you will possibly see the value 3. Thread 0 will see the value 3 and add it to get the value 7. Or if you are unlucky, you will see the value, modified value 12, and you will do 4 plus 12 and write 16 as a of 0 for the next iteration, which is definitely going to be wrong. And similar thing can happen at other memory locations also. For example, for a of 2 also, similar thing will happen, where thread 1 is reading the value 9, whereas thread 2 is going to write to that memory location, and so on. So it will happen at multiple memory locations. So there is a data race here because threads are operating in parallel, and they are both reading as well as different thread is writing to the same memory location. Does that seem reasonable? Everybody is with me in understanding that there is a data race when you are trying to implement it in the manner that I have shown visually on the slide. Anybody has any confusion in that? Why there is a data race? Anybody who has not understood it? Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody is with me. Good. So now that we understand that there is a data race, and that's the reason why I was shying away from writing the code corresponding to it. If at all I want to implement it, how do I get rid of the data race? So data race says that multiple threads, at least one of them is a write, same memory location, and simultaneous execution, right? So well, simultaneous execution is going to be there. So one of the things is going to be has to be removed, right? So that one of the things that we can remove is that we can separate them in time, which means that the way we have been taking care of the data race is that There is a read phase and then there is a write phase. And if you separate these by barriers, then you might be able to separate out these reads and writes as long as writes are happening by single thread. Right? So in this case, it is definitely the case that the writes are happening by a single thread. Only thread 0 is going to write at a of 0. Only thread 1 is going to write at a of 1 and so on. Right? So that is guaranteed. So if I separate reading and writing by a barrier, then I ensure that I'm going to not have a data race and I'll be able to still get exactly the same value. So how do I do that? Well, there is a reading required by thread 0, 4 plus 3. So I read these values in a temporary, which means that I have read those and stored those somewhere. Now I have a barrier, and then while writing, I compute the values using this temporary, and then I write at a of 0, and thread 1 writes at a of 1. Since thread 1 writes at a of 1, the original value 3 is already copied, and therefore thread 0 does not need that value, which is already copied to temporaries, and therefore thread 1 can happily go and overwrite the value 3 by 12. Right? Thread 1 also does the same, where it is going to copy 9 and 3 to local values, so that thread 2 can write at a of 2, and so on. So this is how we need to implement in this manner. And now that implementation is same exactly as what Venkat has written into the chat box. So I'm going to store temporary into the values that I need into a temporary. In this case, Venkat is just taking those values and storing the sum into the temporary, so that I have done my processing. I have done reading, but I have not yet written to that memory location. Then I have a sync threads, which is going to ensure that there is a barrier. And then I'm going to write at my location, which is going to be decided by my thread ID. Right? So the values that I'm going to read are 2id and 2id plus 1. But the one that I'm going to write at is going to be decided by my thread ID. And that is going to be a of id equal to the temporary that I have read. So anybody who has issues in understanding this, anybody who has any questions about Venkat's code? Okay. If you don't, okay, let me put it this way. Right, so this is a data race can be resolved by separating read and write. This requires another barrier and a temporary. Right? So this is what we were discussing. If you don't have any questions, then now I have a question. There is something wrong in Venkat's code. Right? What is that?
So if the condition is false for any thread, yeah, if it's false for any thread, then it will cause a deadlock.
Right. So although, as we discussed while discussing the mid-sem questions, the sync threads usually works even if it is within an if condition, but according to what we understand, we need to have sync threads outside any of the if condition, because not all threads within the WOP will be executing that condition. And therefore, so how are we going to solve this? So can somebody tell me how you will modify the code, and can somebody push the modified code to the chat box?
I mean, can we just repeat the two statements, and then between those we can just put a sync threads, right?
Sure. So this condition 2 into id plus 1 less than equal to n, this condition needs to be repeated. So you have if condition, first statement t equal to something, then you come out of the if statement, have sync threads outside, and to execute a of id equal to t, you repeat the if statement and have a of id equal to t inside that. This was possible in this case nicely because there was no assignment to id, no assignment to n in the if block. But in general, when you are trying to move sync threads outside, make sure that things are sane, in the sense that if there is a change of id or change of n within the, or change of the variables which you use within the block, within the if block, then the next condition that you have will not evaluate to the same condition as the previous if statement. So you will have to modify that according to the statement that you have. But yeah, in most of the cases, since we'll be dealing with thread ID is not writable anyway. So therefore, most of the cases it will work out, but there's a small caveat that you should be worried about. Venkat, does that seem reasonable?
Yes, sir.
All righty. So let's come to what Rigved had suggested about merging strings. Right? He said that it is a concatenation of strings, and it can be implemented using a reduction. It is an associative operation, but not commutative. Right? So I would like you to think about each a of I as a character. We are not even talking about substrings. We are just talking about a single character. And I want to find out that concatenated string using reduction. And whatever we have discussed, that answers the second and the third question. But yeah, so that you can keep in mind. But yeah, can you write quick reduction code corresponding to this and paste in the chat box? Sanket is saying not able to understand how to correct Venkat. Okay, let me. I think none of you pasted that code. Let me write that 2 into ID plus 1 less than equal to n, then t equal to dot dot dot. This is the first statement. Then we have syncthreads outside the if statement. And then again we have 2 into ID plus 1 less than equal to n, a of ID equal to t. So if we write it in this manner, where we move the syncthreads out, but we have to repeat the if condition because we don't want a of ID equal to t to be executed by all the threads. Exactly the threads which were executing the t equal to, those should be executing something equal to t. Does that seem okay, Sanket? Yeah. Okay. So can somebody push the code for string concatenation or character concatenation, if you want to call it that? Actually, it will be string concatenation because only in the first step you will have a character which is going to be a string having single letter, but in subsequent steps, the log n steps, you will still have a substring of more than one characters. Perfect. So what Venkat is suggesting is that the code that we wrote just now, right, that works because we, I mean, that works for some, but we did not assume commutativity there. We were assuming only associativity, and therefore we were concatenating, or rather summing up consecutive elements. Exactly the same thing you have to use to essentially concatenate these different strings. There will be some small issue that you might face because it's not sum that you will be using, but yeah, you will have to work it out because you will have to concatenate strings. So that needs to be worked out, but I leave it as homework for you. But do try it out. I think it's an interesting way to do it. Okay, so just to recap, string concatenation cannot be done using a of I and a of I plus n by 2 or a of 2 into I minus rather 2 into offset minus thread ID minus 1, something like that we did for taking the first and the last, etc. So that doesn't work because sum, etc. is commutative as well as associative, whereas string concatenation is only associative. For matrix multiplication, for exponentiation, if there are other operations which are only associative and not commutative, you will have to implement it in this particular manner, right? The way we discussed as the last one, right? And what other operations, that also we discussed. All right, so this sounds good. Any questions so far? फ्राइडे को तुम लोगों को क्या हो जाता है, थोड़ा सा रिस्पांस एकदम कम हो जाता है, मे बी जस्ट बिफोर लंच और समथिंग. Okay. Anyway, chalo. So we'll go to the next part, which is going to be prefix sum. So this prefix sum is another hierarchical operation. So we said that reduction is a hierarchical operation. What does that mean? That we have n elements, then n by 2, then n by 4, and so on, all the way up to 1. So it looks like a nice hierarchy. Right? And similarly, the computation also happens in a similar manner. That is, there are n by 2 threads working, then n by 4, n by 8, etc. One of the students from IISc, Ullas, he suggested that is this the best way to implement? Is it possible that we could implement reduction in a slightly different way, where instead of each thread operating on 1 or 2 elements, can't it operate on a sequence of elements? I mean, so that there is enough work for each thread to do, because the cost of a barrier might turn out to be little large. So isn't it possible that I can work with, let's say, 4 elements at a time? I do the sum of 4 elements, each thread does the sum, and then in the next step, again, each thread does the sum for 4 elements and so on. So instead of requiring log n to the base 2, I will require log n to the base 4 number of steps, and I'll possibly improve the function, improve the performance. So correctness wise, this is correct, and it can be done this way. Performance wise, yes. There is a possibility that depending upon the number of elements you have, the cost of the barrier, depending upon whether you are using sync threads or global barrier, etc., the cost might differ, and this needs to be tried. Also, if you are working with numbers, maybe this will work, but if you are working with larger data types or complicated data types, then you might have enough work to do at with 2 elements itself. So all of these will be contributing to the overall performance of this, and we'll have to try this out to get which one performs the best. Okay, so prefix sum is another kind of operation which gets used at multiple places, and we'll see one of its examples later when we look at the case study using work lists. So what does prefix sum do? Well, prefix sum essentially means that I am given an array of numbers, and I'm going to do cumulative sum of these numbers. Right? So that is what we are calling as prefix sum. So at every stage, whatever is the prefix, I'm going to compute the sum of all of that. Right? So just to give you an example, yeah, so this is the one that I was talking about in case of graph algorithms or even other algorithms where there is a work list in which we are pushing items. So different threads are pushing different items. We did this a little bit using atomic instructions, and then we said that if k is fixed, then you can as well just do based on thread ID, or you can do an atomic add by k, or alternatively you can do atomic increment every time where work items are going to get pushed in any order. Another way, if you want to avoid atomic or the cost expensive atomics, then you can as well do it using something called as prefix sum, and we'll see how to do that using this. So each thread now pushes a different number of work items, similar to what we had using atomic add as well as atomic increment, but we don't want to use atomics. Right? So this prefix sum is also called as a scan, and because we are going from left to right, we are scanning the input from left to right and computing the cumulative sum. Right? So if we go back to our example of reduction, then this is the input, and what I'm going to compute is essentially a of 0 is same as a of 0, or output of 0 is same as that. Then the sum of these 2 is 7, then sum of these 3 is 16, and so on. So that is how I compute the cumulative sum. So that we are calling as prefix sum. Right? This I would like to compute by modifying. So yeah, alternatively you can just, there are 2 variants of this prefix sum. One is called as inclusive scan or inclusive prefixum, which means that you include this value in the first. Alternatively, you can not include but start with always 0, right? So that is going to just shift it by one level, so one element, right? So all these values are going to be the same. So this second one is called as exclusive scan. So you exclude the first element from the first entry. Alternatively, that is to say you exclude the last element from summing up, right? So that is another way in which you can do. Either way is okay. You can use it at different places, and I'll tell you why we require inclusive versus exclusive scan later. But I want to implement this particular prefix sum implementation, the cumulative sum. You can implement any of these. Can somebody write down the code corresponding to that and paste it in the chat box? Or if there are any questions which you have not understood or any doubts, please feel free to ask. So it should be clear that you can implement this sequentially. Just go over the input string and go on computing the values and just keep writing. You can do actually an in situ update, right? So you can modify the same input to have the prefix sum of those values, or you can write to a different array also. You can also do it atomically if you are yeah, so you can also do it atomically if you want to use multiple threads, right? There is a little bit of an issue there when you use it using atomic. So in case you want to try with atomics also, that is also okay in case you want to start with that. But otherwise, you can think about how you will model this as a hierarchical computation. Can somebody quickly tell what is the challenge with respect to atomics?
Sir, I didn't get what we meant by the atomic solution. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that assume that now there are n sums required, right, in this case, right? And I can launch n threads and let them do n sums, right, in parallel, because my sequential solution was just scan it from left to right. So that is too sequential. So I was thinking that I'll use atomics. So let each thread operate on each data item. And what will each thread do? That is my question. Or will you face any issues with respect to that? Shagnik is suggesting for atomics, we need to make sure all numbers before have been added. Sure. So that is definitely a problem, right? So if I am trying to sum up, let's say I am operating on 3, that is I am going to write the value 19. I need to make sure that either 16 has been written by thread number 2, or I myself need to sum up all these values, right? The first one adds sequentiality, because now thread 0 first completes writing of 4, thread 1 completes writing of 7, then thread 2 completes writing of 16, then thread 3 completes writing of 19. So there is a sequentiality in that processing. Alternatively, if I do things in parallel, and I might require a second array to do that, what I can do is I can sum up all these values myself and then write, add 3 to it and write at a memory, at the appropriate memory location in a maybe a different array. So that is also okay, and that will work out. But unfortunately, that is again going to add sequentiality. N-1 threads will probably finish, but the nth thread is essentially going to sum all these values which is actually the same as what we did using the sequential process. So while the last thread, nth thread or n-1th thread, is going to sum up all these values, it can as well go on writing these values. Right? So therefore, the operation turns out to be very similar to sequential scan. So there is an inherent sequentiality in this particular prefix sum. And therefore, we would like to see if there is some way in which we can exploit hierarchical computation to get the prefix sum computed. Karthik Suresh is suggesting we can have a shared array with each thread adding to all indices after threadIdx.x. Sure. So that is where the atomics is going to come into picture. So what is being suggested is that 4. So one thread is operating on 4. Sorry. And so thread 0 is operating on 4. That 4 needs to be added at all the locations. Let me just remove. That 4 is going to get added at all the locations which are above that thread ID. So thread 0 will write it at all the, will make sure that 4 gets added to all the elements. Thread 1 is going to write at whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And thread 4, that is this value 5, should be added to this as well as this as well as these locations. Right? So that is what we have to ensure. This be possible in the sense that as far as 9 is concerned, or rather the place 16 is concerned, that is being written by possibly thread 0 as well as thread 1, and therefore we will have to use atomic add to increment the value at location number 2. Yeah, so as Karthik is suggesting, we have to use atomic to avoid the race in this case. The small issue there might be that if I'm talking about thread 0 needs to again write at all the next positions, right? So that might turn out to be sequential bottleneck. Is there something that we can do for this? Krishna Vamsi has shared a code, shared val and I equal to 0, I less than threadIdx.x, a of I plus equal to val of I, followed by syncthreads. So I didn't understand why syncthreads is required. Maybe if you are using a of I, then you might require. But I didn't. What is the initialization of val? That is the values that you have, is it?
I had to copy the values of a of I into the val, and then I had to do this. I forgot to do.
Okay. So let's say that val is populated with a of with a, and then a of I plus equal to val of I, that will ensure that, right? Yeah, that seems to be a reasonable code because a of I is being written by no. I think there is some issue. A of I is going from 0 to thread ID, which means that a of 0 is being written by multiple threads. Right? So similarly, I mean, except for a of n-1, everything will be written by more than one thread. So there is a data race here.
Sir, it should be a of threadIdx.x. That would be.
Oh, I see. So a of threadIdx.x plus equal to val of I. Or maybe you want to start with I equal to threadIdx.x. No, but I less than threadIdx. Okay. Yeah, that is correct. So I was coming to that. Sai Chaitanya has mentioned that there is a sequentiality here even for the last thread, because 0 to n-1, all of those values need to be added to a of n-1, right? So there is sequentiality here also. So okay, so in all of our solutions, what we are not making use of is the hierarchical computation, that if I have done 4 and 3 sum, that I would like to use for computing 16, but I cannot use it unless 4 plus 3 has been done, right? But once I have computed 16, I mean, I don't have to wait for 4 plus 3 to be computed for summing of 9 plus 3, right? Similarly, 5 plus 7, the way I was doing reduction, that can be done in the same step. So I'm going to compute cumulative sums together by partitioning them. But in the next step, I'm going to use, for example, in this case, I'm going to use 7 for computing 16. But I could use this 12 value, which was, sorry. I'm going to use this 12 value, which was computed using this 9 plus 3 in computing 19, right? So can I do that in the next step by making use of this, so that I reduce the number of steps that I require? I don't require n minus 1 barrier separated steps, but I require something much lower than that, let's say log n steps, right? So that is what we would like to see, and that we'll study after a long time. The next week we won't have classes, so that we are going to study much later, right? So any questions so far? All right, so enjoy the break.